Hi, my name is Candace, aka Picasso Baby, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create your very own holiday wreath. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you so much for stopping back by to paint with me today. So I know it's been a while, but you all know that the Christmas season is here. So that means 5 days of Christmas with Picasso Baby. And I am going to be showing you 5 different Christmas paintings that you can enjoy with your friends, family, and loved ones during this holiday season. So today I am going to be showing you how to create your very own holiday wreath. But before we get started, as always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and turn on those post notifications so that you do not miss the next tutorial. So a few things I'm going to be working with. As you can see, I have a 16 by 20 inch canvas. Remember, you can use the canvas size or the object of your choice. Whatever you would like to paint on, you can use what you would like. I am also working with acrylic paint. So I'm going to be using a few different size acrylic brushes. You want to make sure you have a water cup with cool water for your brushes. And then you also want to get yourself some napkins or a rag to dry your brushes off on. And of course, you want to have your paint. I'm working with acrylic paint and I am using the colors chrome yellow, burnt sienna, bright red, Mars black, phthalo blue, and titanium white. And as always, everything is linked down in the description below. So let's go ahead and get started. So for my holiday wreath, the fun thing about a wreath, just like a Christmas tree, you can really add whatever you want to it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get my background on there. This one's going to be super fun and super simple. I promise you can do this one to add some decor to your home or just something fun to do with your kids or your family this season. But the first thing I want to do is I want to sketch out about how big my wreath is going to be. So I'm going to start with a small circle in the center, and I am using my biggest brush and I'm using the color red because I want my background to be red. So whatever color your background is going to be, that's the color you're going to start with. And around this circle, I'm going to create another circle. So it's almost like I made a donut, right? But we're just sketching out basically where our wreath is going to go. Now that I have that on there, I want to get everything around the wreath completely filled in with my red, or remember the color of your choice. So I am going to fill in the center here. You want to make sure you get that center filled in because of course there is a nice little hole in the wreath. And then you want to get everything else around it completely filled in. So we're just going to work on the background and then we'll move to the next step together in a few. All right, now once you have your background filled in, the next thing we're going to start to fill in is our wreath. Now you do want to make sure to wash out your brush. I'm going to wash all of this red out. And now I am going to mix up some green. So I want to start with a darker green. You know, most of the time a wreath is one solid color. It's normally a darker green. But because this is a painting, we want to do a few different shades of green to really make it look like it has some texture to it. So I am going to, right on my plate, take some of my yellow and a really good amount of blue. I'm using a little more blue than yellow because I want it to be a darker green to start with. And all I'm going to do to get this filled in is I am going to just be quickly making some really quick mark, almost like wisp or flicking your wrist with your brush. Flick of the wrist, flick of the wrist. So I am just going to be doing that, doing some up, doing some down. And you can see I am going outside of the circle that we created because I want to make this fuller than that space that we had left. So you want to make sure you pull some towards the center, pull some outside, and you want to do this all the way around. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to be completely perfect at this point because we're going to add about 2 more shades of green to really fill this in. And I know your background is still wet, so you might be picking a little bit of paint up, and that's okay. It'll blend right into your wreath, so just keep on going. All right. Now that you have the base of it on there and it's covered with your darker green, now we want to go in with a little bit of a lighter green. So right where I mixed up my green, I am going to take some more yellow, just a little more blue, and this time I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. Because again, I want this shade to be lighter than the shade of green I already have on my wreath. And now I'm going to go in and do the same thing. And you see how adding that extra color on there is going to fill in some more space and make it look fuller, but it's also going to give it more texture and make it not as flat. All right. Now, as you can see, you start to see the difference when you get that extra color in there. It feels more fuller, but we're not going to stop there. I'm going to add it a little more of a lighter green just to give it a little more. Now, if you like yours where it's at, remember, you don't have to do every step that I do. You can really make this your own, but I am going to lighten mine up just a little more. So I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just taking a little more white, adding it to my mixture. And now I'm going to go in with this lighter white, just to give it a little extra zhuzh, you know. And once you've done that, you have now got your wreath completely filled in. If you want to add more, it's completely up to you. But at this point, I am now going to start to add some little details. So I'm going to switch brushes. So I am going to get rid of my bigger brush and I'm going to actually go in with my medium brush. Now, as far as the details you add, if you want to add like little ornaments or things like that, you definitely can. I'm just going to add more like little sticks and berries. I want to keep my wreath super, super natural because I'm going to add a bow on it and some words to tie it all in. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to go back into my red and I'm going to add some little red dots. So I'm just pressing my brush down and adding it wherever you want to see it at. Now, if you feel like yours is still a little too wet, remember you can always take a drying break to let it dry and then you can come back and start with me. But it shouldn't mix too much. So I am just going to go ahead and start right on this next step. All right. Now that I have that on there, the next thing I want to do is I want to add in almost like some little twigs. Because again, I want to kind of keep this really natural. So I am switching brushes again. Now I'm switching to a really small, teeny tiny round brush. And I am going to go into my brown. So that burnt sienna, I'm going to take a little bit of white and mix it with some of my burnt sienna. I want to lighten it just a bit so that it shows up. And I am going to add in some little twigs. For the twigs, you can add them in like that, just like little quick little lines. Or you can pull them out of your wreath and make little swirls like that. These little twigs are completely up to you. You can add some next to your little red dots. You don't have to keep them scattered apart, but you do want to make sure to spread them out around just a bit. I'm going to add one in the center there. All right. Now, once you feel like you have enough of that detail in there, I'm going to add one more detail. So I'm going to wash my brush out because I'm going to still work with this smallest brush. But now I'm going to go in with just white paint. And I just want to add almost like some little white plants inside of my wreath. So you can keep it as simple as adding white dots or little white dashes, or you can make little white plants. For the plants, I start with a line, and then I put a few little marks on each side of the line. I'm going to do that again over here. So I'm going to make this one into a line, and I'm just pressing my brush down to make some little marks. Do the same thing over here. And if your paint is still wet, again, it will mix in just a little bit. That's completely fine. But if you don't like it, you can always let it dry and then add the details. So I'm going to make this one into a little line and add those little marks. Let's do one more over here. And then I'm still going to go in and add some little dots as well. I feel like adding white in last really makes it pop in little areas, gives it a bit of a highlight. The same way we went in with the lighter green. It just gives it a little highlight and makes it pop. Now, like I said before, I am going to be adding on a bow. But before I add the bow, I want to let it dry a bit. But while that is drying, I'm actually going to add some words to my painting. If you don't want to add words to yours, you can leave this part off. You don't have to add it. But I am going to go back to my medium brush. So you want to make sure you washed and dried that one really well. And I am going to add Happy Holidays. You could always do Merry Christmas. I'm doing my bow at the bottom, so that's why I'm going to do my words at the top. If you're doing your bow at the top, you can do your words at the bottom. You could always do the year. You could do your last name or your family's last name. You can write the words that you want, but I am going to start with the black, and I am going to be writing Happy Holidays. And one thing you can do before you start with this with paint, remember, you can always take a piece of chalk and write it out first. That way you can see how it's going to look, and then you can paint right over the chalk. Now, before I'm finished with my words, the same way I added little pops of color and highlights to my wreath, I want to add some highlights to my words by simply picking up some white paint, and I did not wash my brush off. And I am just going to go on top of my black, and just in a few places, I'm just adding a little highlight. Now, once you've got your words on there, remember, you can leave it at the point that you like it. If you like it just like this, you don't have to add anything else. But I am going to add one more detail. I'm going to add a bow. But before I can add that bow, I want to make sure my wreath is completely dry. So I'm just going to take a 5 to 10 minute break to let it dry. You can always grab the blow dryer to dry it and then start on the next step, or give yourself a break, and we'll start back on the next step together in a few.
3 days later.
All right, now the next thing I'm gonna add, remember I'm just adding on my bow. If you want to do something different, feel free to do so. I want to add on like a tan bow. I feel like tan goes well with red. I feel like that'll stand out very well. You could do blue, you could do yellow, whatever color you'd like. But I'm gonna do tan. So I'm using my medium brush and I'm gonna mix that in with some of my brown. I'm also gonna take some of my yellow and mix that right in. I'm gonna add just a little more white. And I'm going to start out by just simply creating the bow first. I'm going to make it bigger, but I'm just going to do an outline for it first. So I want to do a little line like that. Do another one here. I'm going to make this one go down a little longer. And now I'm going to go back in and make it a bit wider. And if you haven't learned anything throughout this painting yet, you should know that I'm going to add a highlight. If you haven't learned anything else, I know you've learned that I'm going to add a highlight. So I am going to add a nice little highlight on my bow by just picking up some white. I'm going to add some over here as well. And here. And again, if there is anything else you would like to add, feel free to add whatever you'd like. But the last thing you want to make sure to do is simply signing your name. So I'm going to go back to my smallest brush. And if you did like your family's last name, you don't have to do that. But I'm going to go back to my smallest brush and just add my initials right in the corner. You can add whatever you'd like. And once you have signed it, or once you have done your very last detail, you now have your very own holiday wreath. Thank you all so much for painting with me today. I hope you have enjoyed the first painting of 5 Days of Christmas with Picasso, baby, and that your holiday wreath is hung around your home for many years to come. But before you leave, make sure you turn on those post notifications so that you don't miss the next tutorial. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next tutorial.